Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Uh, First of all, raise your arms like this. We're all together, okay? Right. Now, I want to make a couple of things very clear. First of all, many thanks to the Students' Union, to all of you to invite me over to sort of share some of my thinking with you. But first of all, I want to make a couple of things very clear. One is that I wish to go on record whatever I'm saying. So there should not be any hiding, anything like that. Okay, everything has to be on record. Second thing is that I speak as of now. Right now, I speak as I was invited as an individual faculty member. I'm also, as you know, the president of the SCST Employees Welfare Association. So there was very little time to consult with them. So as of now, I'm speaking as an individual faculty member. As an association, we have already extended support to you in a formal capacity. Okay. So we have written to the acting director about this. All right. Right. So now, usually what happens is that, this is a common predicament in TISS, that a lot of teachers, they sort of teach activism in class and they teach theory within activists, So I don't want to get into that trap and discuss things like that and make the same mistake. So I will, if you give me sort of half an hour of your valuable time, I'll say a couple of things that I have to share with you. All of you, I have been noticing for quite some time, although I was hardly directly involved because I interact a lot with students. So I have heard that you have been having this issue regarding, the scholarships for a long time. Which includes the scholarships also for the OBC students, as well as the scholarship also for non-net students. Okay, this the type of grant which they used to get. So I'm given to understand that gradually all of them have been shut down, and or they're going to be shut down very soon. And the institute has taken this decision. This also comes, this type of a thing also comes against the context of many other student-related matters which have been taking place for the last few years, one after the other. Say, for example, starting with the hostel issues about cooking, and then about eating food, and things like that, about your use of the library timings. There were so many issues which I get to hear from students, which come as a sort of a package along with this. So I'm very happy, and I wish to sort of congratulate you that you have been able to do one thing which has never happened in TISS before. I've been here for 2 decades, and I've heard a lot about the past, which is basically to sort of have a very sharp, well-formed critique and a protest about what are the issues and what you all are asking. From what I gathered, it has been very clear in your minds. And second thing is that it has also been the case that all of you are here together. Now, all of us know that, as is usually the case in most universities, students are usually have different type of affiliations. In TISS has a remarkable institution, very strange I found after I came from JNU and West Bengal, that here they do not ostensibly, the students don't have any political affiliation, but nonetheless you all each have a very different type of an affiliation. But what is remarkable about this gathering is that for the last few days I'm seeing is that all of you have basically come together. So my first, and many congratulations for that. Okay, so you all have cut across caste, class, race, region, language, everything, your own specific personal affiliations. You might still want to believe in a particular ideology or things like that, but all of you have come together. That's very great. If some of you all are having certain differences of opinion, my request as a preliminary remark would be is to all of you get together, sit down, and then thrash it out, because I don't really see here anybody, any student, any group here who has been trying to usurp the space for their benefit. That has not happened. I'm quite sure about that. So that's very good on your behalf, and it would be very nice if you can sort of convince some of you all who are not convinced to come together. But it's very good what you have done. Now, what is the reason why I feel that what you all have done is very significant, and that's the point that I want to point out in the context of this institution. Now, the first thing that you get to, I'll leave it open for a few questions and answers, say after some time, so do ask me then. But if I'm not mistaken, the first thing that you all are sort of indoctrinated once you come in, and perhaps also some of the presumptions that you make before you come in here, is that you come in because this is an institution which stands specifically for social justice and human rights, right? Now, we all know that the nature of modern education is supposed to stand for human rights and social justice. Universities are supposed to be the fountainhead of enlightenment and, justice and rights and so on. But one good thing about this institution, at least as far as its claim is concerned, is that it has always tried to sort of operationalize this idea or this concept. And hence, therefore, your field work and, your engagement with projects and, with different type of interfaces with different people's organization, all this is a part of the legitimate enterprise of this curriculum and this syllabus that you are here for. That's good. So my point is that we should begin precisely from this good point, and therefore, locate our, your protest against that. Now, so the first thing that appears to be very clear to me is the fact that you all are asking for, resolution of the problem of the scholarships. Against this, you all have other demands which are fairly legitimate, starting from living conditions to, the curriculum, the type of teaching that goes on, etc., etc. Now, when you have raised this issue, it goes directly to the heart, I think, of the vision and the mission of this institute. So the first point that you have succeeded in doing, I think, from what I observed from a distance, is to be able to sort of very clearly present on the table to everybody in this world about the very hypocrisy of this institution in what it basically does. Now, all of us, those who are from a different, political or non-political bodies who are connected to this institute, at different levels we fight on this issue of what is stated as the philosophical goal and what is actually done and practiced, right? Now, this gap between theory and practice is a very old conundrum. I don't want to get into all this very high-flowing discussion and all that. But the main point, I think, which you have risen that and which you can consolidate and raise consistently, is the fact that the vision and the mission of this institute very clearly articulates that the very justification, the very foundation of this institute is to basically ensure that all of us become vehicles of social justice and human rights in what is ostensibly accepted as an unjust, unfair, and an unequal society, cutting across all parameters. So it is in this context of inequality and unfairness that we are being trained here in order to see if we can do something for the world around us, right? Now, if that is the case, if that is supposed to be our justification, our training, our future career, our lives, then I assume that the first place where this sort of thing should be implemented and practiced is with you, with us, inside the boundaries of the institute. So it's here that you first, as everybody says, that justice begins at home. So it is here, first and foremost, that every principle that you all are trained in, you all are spoken to, that you all actually practice outside, and what the faculty and the administration teach you, these principles must be first of all implemented here. Now, I think that one of the points that you all have been able to do through your articulation of this protest, it's a record in this institute, is to basically bring this to the fore. All right. Now, let me give me the privilege of being able to elaborate this with a few bureaucratic details, if this helps you to sharpen your argument. Now, we have been listening consistently, perhaps you too, you have been listening consistently, that there has been, two arguments which have been usually forwarded broadly in order to justify this cut or whatever decisions are being taken. One is that the UGC is reducing its grants, or the government of India, which is responsible for providing the necessary grants to the necessary constituencies, have been reducing its grants, and therefore the institute is not in a position to help you further. That's one point. The second point that is being mentioned is that, there has been a huge expansion of this institute, and many programs are being developed, and all of you are part and parcel of that. Many of you all are benefiting. Where is the money going to come from? These are the two arguments that I frequently hear, from the institute side while they are talking about this sort of a problem. Now, technically speaking, it may well be the case that the government has been, not only this present government, but the earlier regime also, has been reducing its grants to the UGC. In fact, for quite some time back, circulars have been issued by the UGC that there will be a 5% cut, sometimes yearly, sometimes across plan periods, in the budgets of institutions under the UGC, and you are supposed to search for your own funds. So UGC has this proclivity to basically occasionally issue this type of circulars, and they many a times merge with the type of sort of neoliberal, within quotes, atmosphere which is going around all over the place. That's fine. I mean, it does happen, right? Now, if it does happen, for example, suppose for example you take it as a fact that yes, there has been a reduction of grants, there is another place where there could be a reduction of grants. For example, the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment gets an allocation for this type of a scholarship that you are agitating for, and this allocation basically gets disbursed throughout the states, and previously it used to come here, now it goes for direct benefit transfer. Now, that's correct. Technically speaking, the institute has very little say over this matter, other than the fact that it could perhaps persuade those state governments which are giving the money or releasing the money very late, or who are basically creating all sorts of hurdles for students to access the scholarship. For them, one could actually have a sort of a liaison more proactively. That is something that the institute could do. But technically speaking, the institute could say that, look, it is not in our hands, it is basically in government's hands, and therefore, you either pay or you quit. Fair enough. Now, I want to locate this technicality, okay, within a larger technicality, all right? Now, there are three things that have happened in this institute. One is that there has been a massive expansion of campus programs and people who have been appointed. So, larger number of students, larger number of faculty members, larger number of programs and campuses have all taken place. Now, it's another thing that a large number of these campuses and these programs are under legal scrutiny. There have been a lot of controversies regarding these programs, and a lot of controversies especially regarding the campuses, and everything is sort of being handled, I get the sense, in a way which is not very fair and square and above the board. So you don't really get a very clear-cut information from any quarter, even as a faculty member, as to what is basically happening as far as these campuses are concerned. Now, I'm given to understand that in solidarity with you, there have been movements like this taking place in the Hyderabad, Guwahati campuses. I'm not very sure about what's happening in Tulsapur, but many of the points that have been raised by those students are, of course, in relation to what you have said, but some of them are very specific burning problems to their campuses also. So if you were to speak to anybody connected to these campuses, it will appear as if everything is fine, which is very clearly a very big lie. It is not fine, Otherwise, people from Hyderabad and Guwahati would have just dumped you and had a jolly good time. They are also with you, so things are not fine. Now, what is the issue here? That when you basically expand this institution, okay, and you access many different sources of funding, you play different types of rules for expanding this institution. The basic fact of the matter is that this expansion is something that is not sponsored by the UGC, all right? Now, you must understand one very specific thing, is that we come under the 2016 regulations of the deemed to be universities regulation passed by the UGC. The regulation that applied to us was 2010, and then it was 2016, right? Now in the 2016, if you wanted, I circulated it to people, all of you should carefully read it. I earnestly request you, because it will only help you to understand the scenario better. Now, there are a couple of things vis-a-vis this institution which come out very clearly from the regulations. I had written to the registrar regarding something. Obviously, as usual, he did not respond. But that apart, it's a very funny thing. I mean, you call me my colleague. I write to you once, twice, 20 times. You call me my student. I write to you 20 times and you don't respond. I mean, it's a very strange human being that you are, besides being a person. Anyway, apart from that, I'll get back to him in my own way. Apart from that, when any colleague speaks, you better speak back. That's the fundamental nature of the contract. Otherwise, we don't speak. We are not colleagues. Okay. Now, as far as the problem is concerned, as far as the deemed university is concerned, give me 2 minutes. I want to point out two very crucial issues from which I will take what I have to say forward. Number one, please understand that there are two types as far as the 2016 regulation, okay, which is applicable to all of us now. As far as the 2016 regulation, there are largely two types of deemed to be universities. One is which are government owned and controlled. So I suppose that the government pays the money to start it off, has its members in the governing board and senate, and runs the show. The other is privately owned and controlled. Okay? So which means that it has been set up by some trust or a group of people. Some of us get together and set up an NGO, then we start floating programs, and then we apply for a deemed to be university status for the programs that we run. These are the two types of universities which are deemed to be universities which are recognized by the UGC. Now, the first and foremost point about the status of a deemed to be university is that the deemed to be university means that the UGC only recognizes your degree. You apply for recognition of your degrees and your programs. That's all it does. It does not have an obligation of even 1 naya paisa to fund you. On the other hand, if it so desires, it can fund you for the next 100 years, giving you all the money that you require. Please understand that it is entirely up to the decision of the UGC to fund you, right? Now, this was something that was very clear to this institute for a long time, long time. Even in 2010 regulation, this is the case. My first question to this institute is, why is it that you did not make this clear to each and every constituent body, and especially why did you not write in the prospectus, okay, that this is your status? That is, the status is, number one, that you are somebody who was established by a private body. Even now when I ask around and ask who is the owner of this institute, it's not the government, so therefore who is the owner, I never get a clear-cut answer, okay? All that I hear is somewhere in the 1930s, in the distant past, Dorab Tata Trust, I suppose, had set up this small place which became the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, which later on becomes the deemed university, right? So therefore my question is, can I therefore call the Dorab Tata Trust, now they have merged them together in the form of Tata Trust, okay? So are they our owners, right? Now the reason I'm asking this question is because the pill that all of you are given is that we are a public funded university. That is, we are owned by the government. It's a government institution. Very clearly, I think this is totally incorrect unless and until this is clarified on the public for everybody that we are actually owned and controlled by the government. Okay, that's number one. Number two is that as far as these regulations are concerned, if we are a private setup, and if you knew very clearly that the UGC has no legal obligation to give you 1 naya paisa, okay, then my two questions are, on the basis of what did you expand, okay, what is the burden that you incurred while expanding, And why are you invoking the name of the UGC or the central government while touching or destroying the scholarships for students, not only SC/ST students but also OBC and general students who do not get the NET scholarship, okay, the JRF, alright? So the question is that what is your logic on the basis of which you are blaming one sector and you are not blaming the other sector, okay? I want to just dwell on this, and I would crave your attention on this a little carefully so that you are able to get the crux of the matter, at least as far as it appears to me. I'm telling you, okay? That is, I'm telling it to you because although I know that all of you don't belong to the SC/ST categories or even OBC, and you might not have a problem with your funding, but because you are all standing together along with the aggrieved parties, I'm addressing as you. Now, what is it that the institute is telling you by doing this? The institute is basically telling you that look, this money comes from the central government, okay? It comes via the states. We are nowhere in the picture, so we have nothing to do with your problem. So you either pay up one. Clause number B under this is, look, the centi part, look, we have been feeding you. Okay, we have been feeding you for so many years because this money has not been coming, and therefore we are taking care of you. Different words are used, feeding you, taking care of you, we are staying here for free and all that. Now, favors, giving favors and all that. Now, as far as I know from whatever, because I've also studied social work, I can also tell them a few words about social work, not only they. But, you know, as far as I know, in the history of charity giving, most of the time one doesn't really tell that I am feeding this person or that person. That's the height of shamelessness. That you are helping somebody, you are giving somebody food, and you are telling that I am giving you food. It's like giving you food and giving you a tight slap, a total humiliation. Now, this humiliation operates on the basis of a very specific logic, okay? Which is this. Try to understand what the institute is telling you. The institute is telling you that we have, of course, fed you for free, but now the money isn't coming, and therefore we are not going to feed you anymore. You please pay up or you go. Right? Now this very same institution which is blaming the UGC and the central government for the shortage of funds has also makes two other statements simultaneously. It never says that it's a private body. It always says that it is a publicly funded university. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, in the letterhead, there's a problem there. As far as the UGC notification has come, this place cannot call itself a university. It has to write as a deemed to be university. So I will write in my own way to the registrar that why are you giving all this garbage, and fooling people all the time. That apart, now this institute which is telling you that it cannot give you money anymore. So by you, I mean everybody, SC/ST, non-net, OBC, any other category, PWD, any other category, anybody who requires a little bit of help, that's all, okay? Now, this institute also has expanded marvelously. It has bought large tracts of land. Sometimes it tells us that the government gives us land. I learned that actually they also bought a part of the land, and now there is some sort of a legal tangle. I don't know, because these things require a lot of detective work because they don't tell you very clearly what's happening. Anyway, this institute also has expanded enormously across campuses and programs. I was part of the working group which basically started the development studies program when many of you were not here. When 2004-2006 this whole decision to expand had taken place, okay? At that time, it was a long fought battle. We had our own reasons why development studies should come, but the main idea was that it will be only this program. Little did we know that up the sleeves of this particular person who came and abused you the other day, who is no longer connected to this institute, this person basically had a whole program of marvelous and maddening expansion across the country. Now there were two types of expansion. One is an expansion of physical space, campuses. Campuses were done in such a way where there was no land. Even if there was land, there was no money to build buildings. And the second expansion that took place, besides the programs that were sort of started almost overnight, one after the other, was also the hiring of staff and teachers, right? Now, as you know, if you care to look at accounts carefully, the biggest burden on any university or any governmental organization always is the salary burden. So we get paid very well. Even when in the fourth pay commission, when we were begging and borrowing money as faculty members because our pay was very low compared to the inflation, even then compared to what was happening outside, we used to get paid very well. So therefore, our salary is the biggest burden on this institution, right? Now, this is the case with all government or all institutions. Now, when this sort of a thing is taking place, the institute is expanding at a maddening pace. It is able to generate a lot of money from the private sector. It is able to appoint a huge number of temporary faculty, people on contract, and also it is able to employ a large number of on-contractual staff, fourth class employees and staff, okay? When it is able to do that, it very clearly means that there is a dichotomy, an unspoken but a very clearly thought out devious dichotomy that is operating within this institution in the same body. Number one, when it is possible or for whatever reasons, we will feed you. But we will not feed you when we are able to cite that the government is not giving us money. On the other hand, we will go to enormous extents to feed other people. That is, we will hire and appoint a large number of people, many of them staff, many of them faculty members. We will bring in students in huge numbers, increase the fees tremendously, put them 3, 4, 6 students in a small room called a hostel room, feed them food which destroys their stomachs, charge them very heavily. We will do all that, okay? But at the same time tell the scholarship holders that, sorry, this government is to blame, we can't help you. So now I'm posing a question for you. Who does this institute own as its own? Who belongs to this institute? Do these scholarship holders belong to this institute? My feeling is, my understanding is no. Because you all have been told that your headache lies with the government. We will not be able to do anything for you. We are washing our hands of you. Okay? On the other hand, it goes to enormous pains to send people abroad, to basically appoint people at different scales, to give them a lot of projects, to do many other things which have never been mandated by the UGC. Most of the time, there is almost next to no funding from the UGC for all these activities. At that time, they are very clear that it is this constituency which they own. In other words, what is very clear is that essentially the private sector, the non-UGC part, is what the institute owns. The UGC part it only uses in order to further facilitate this private part, and if necessary, the students who are part of the UGC can be sacrificed when the time comes. So I am once again asking you, do you, all of you who are standing for the institute, do you belong to this institute? No, you don't belong to this institute. It is those people who have received the benefits and privileges, okay, from this institute, largely drawn from the private funding, non-UGC funding, generated by this institute, who actually the institute is bothered about. It is they who form the headache. Scheduled caste and scheduled tribes are the skull of this institute. They are not bothered about these people at all. And all of you who stand along shoulder to shoulder with scheduled caste and scheduled tribe and OBC students, now you are being lumped together as basically being the scum of this institute. Why is that so? Precisely because it feels that you do not constitute a constituency of this place. Okay, the constituency actually belongs to those people whom this institute wants to favor, and you all are simply out of favor. This dichotomy you must understand very clearly, which lies at the heart of the institute. So it's very easy therefore for the administration to tell you to get out. It's very easy for this administration, no matter how many times you speak to them, to say that we are not budging, citing some figures. Of course these figures are correct. They are probably most of the time very correct. But I am trying to put you the location, the framework within these figures. These figures are operating within a framework where there is another set of figures. Figures which are favorable to a whole lot of people, and these figures, they are being cited to you, so ultimately to justify the disfavor, that is, somebody said about favors, the things which you were supposed to receive, you are not receiving, right? That's the first point that I want to make. The second point, how do I extend this framework? Have you got what I'm trying to say? Yes. This basic dichotomy that is there in this institution, yes. Okay? This sense of ownership. That's why it becomes very easy for them to wash you off their hands, to wash you off their minds. Because they can easily say that in their minds, they can easily say, you are incidental, you don't matter to me. Now I'm slightly worried about that. Are they therefore saying that ultimately this institute will matter to people who can pay? Are they basically saying that we are heading towards some sort of a de facto, quiet, under the carpet sort of privatization? That's, I'm putting it as a question for you, okay? Now the second point that I want to make as an extension of this argument is, how would this institute, for instance, sell itself as a unique institution, as different from and superior to other universities? That's what you're being told all the time. How would it be able to sell? I'm posing this question for you. If this is the dichotomy at its very heart, you need to understand the smooth operation with which this institute constitutes itself. Now, so far, the institute has said that we are unique and different and special and better because we work for the poor and the marginalized. Earlier, the word marginalization had another connotation. Because of the OBC movement, SC/ST movement, Durban, US Senate, Dalit, tribal intellectuals coming up, a lot of publication. Now they have been compelled to include the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes under the category of Dalit, and they are compelled to include them as part of the marginalized. Otherwise, they were always working with the Dalits as a political category, but they were considered basically as SC and ST, a sort of a helpless infants requiring some baby milk. That's how they were treating, this community all over when they were establishing this institute, or when they used to run this institute. Now, the vision and the mission very clearly states that we are an institute is special because we work for these guys. Any university which teaches an MA in sociology or a BA in politics or something, or even a BTech or something like a BS in biochemistry, these universities and institutions never really make the poor and marginalized as the essence of the work. But we do. That's the claim of Tata Institute of Social Sciences, that it does. So my question is that if it does so, okay, what is going to be its vision and mission when on this very soil of this institution it practices completely the opposite of what it claims itself to be? So it cites government regulations, it cites some shortage of funds, it cites favors that they have given to you in order to show that they cannot actually practice that very social justice what they were talking about. When does social justice get practiced? When does social justice get practiced? When is it an issue? Is it an issue when all of you are very comfortable? Is it an issue in a society which is very egalitarian? Is it an issue when there is no tension, there is no contradiction? Not at all. Social justice becomes an issue primarily when there is contestation. when there is a challenge, when there is a problem, when it is political. Social justice becomes an issue when the whole problem is problematized, is thematized as political, right? So therefore, if this institution is going to talk about social justice and it's going to sort of disenfranchise the very constituency about which they are talking about externally all the time and selling itself as an unique institution, I am demanding that if this is what the institute wants to do, it better change its vision and mission. It should very clearly state that it has nothing to do with the poor and the marginalized. Okay, we are basically a for-profit organization. We have nothing to do with the poor and marginalized, and we'll be either like any other enlightenment-oriented university, or we'll do some business. But we will not do anything for the poor and the marginalized. If you are going to do for the poor and the marginalized, then you be with the poor and marginalized first here, and then you go and lecture outside. Do it here. Don't give any bull crap and lies, and don't behave like big autocrats with students. Students are students. After all, you are responsible for teaching them, for upbringing them. I'm not going to open my mouth about what crap gets taught here, about what sort of things happen here. I will do that on my own way. But you just do your job well here in this premise. Okay? You do it in Hyderabad, you do it in Tulsapur, you do it in Guwahati. Just do your job well. So I'm very happy that your vision and mission says that you are going to do it, on the behalf of the poor and the marginalized. Most welcome. Let's do that. I'm very happy to be with you. But then, if you are going to be happy to be with you, then you must show that you are actually practicing it on this campus. You see? So therefore, the demand from our side should be that first and foremost, you either change the vision and mission, or you listen to what we are trying to say, because we here are speaking within the framework of the vision and mission. So this becomes even more strong because we have two sets of facts with you, dichotomous to each other. One is your fact about shortage of money coming from the central government, which might well be true, but on the other hand, your expansion, you have a lot of money in your pockets. You have been claiming all the time, we have been receiving mails as faculty members from this person who has just left, that your salary is not sure. For 1 year he has been threatening us that every month I'm begging and borrowing and your salary is basically not sure. Who cares? I never heard a circular coming from the UGC saying that this salary of faculty members who are there on UGC posts have been changed at all. Nothing like that has ever come. We checked all over the country, nothing like that has been issued. But this is what we have been basically told. So, irrespective of what they say, I assure you that this institute has got enough money to basically expand, to continuously demand new centers and get them done, to appoint people. And if this is, I am not interested in whether the erstwhile director was gassing and the registrar was basically putting him on proper financial tracks. That's not my headache, man. You sort that out. I am only interested in the claim that you are making. If you are making the claim that you are expanding, if you are saying that new projects are being undertaken, if I see that you are appointing the people with the same designation with differential salary, if I see that you are spending a lot of money, throwing them all over the place, then I want to know that how within the same institution you are quoting a shortage of funds from the central government to deny these students their due. That's what I want to know. Okay? So if you are saying that you are in a total deficit, then don't fight in the academic council to pass a new center in Kerala. Don't do that. Okay? that you can't pay students, then I say close down all the expansion until such a time when you can pay all students. These students here, or in Hyderabad or Tulzapur or Guwahati, are more important. You are the justification of why not only I get my salary, okay, I like reading books, therefore I get my salary, but all those characters here who don't read books, they also get their salary because of you. So if I am getting my salary because of you, then my primary concern is you. Okay, so I will do everything, whether I expand, whether I shut down my pockets, whatever I do, I'll keep that, I'll have to keep primarily, first and foremost, only you in mind. The UGC regulation is very clear. An MPhil PhD student should basically have a single room. I remember when we were in JNU, in the first year, very apologetically, the university told us to share a room. Second year onwards, for 6-7 years, we all had a single room. And here, I saw bunk beds. Little did I know that in Bombay, you put students on bunk beds. I mean, you can stay comfortably in your place, and you're letting students change clothes in bunk beds, you know. You're talking about social justice, poverty, marginalization and all that, and you're treating your own constituency here, okay? Now, therefore, the question that needs to be put to this institute very briefly is this. Very clearly, you have two sets of accounts. Now, we are not accounting wizards. In fact, we don't want to be accounting wizards. Why should we? That's not a business. But your job is to basically manage the accounts in such a way that you are consistent and you have integrity. And integrity here in this university, in this institution, requires integrity primarily for the students, right? Now, many a times I've heard that students don't read, or they're loafing around, or they do this or do that and all that. That's part of growing up. You will have to convince the students as to why they should devote more and more time for the reading. But that can't be done by cutting the pockets of students, by putting them in very difficult living conditions. That's not the way. As far as I know, the singular most important institutions besides your hostels for you, the library, has been suffering drastically from fund cuts, right? Now you cite the government as being responsible for cutting grants for the library. On the other hand, you don't have any problem in setting up a center in Kerala or in Delhi. We don't even know where the hell is this center in Delhi located. I mean, a lot of us colleagues and most of you as students don't know. So what is this business of expanding on one side? It requires money, doesn't it? Of having money for this expansion, and on the other side, basically cutting down money. Now, the presentation that was made by the registrar to all faculty shows an overall deficit because all this has been basically going on. If all this has been basically going on, then there is one very clear thing that you need to be clear about. First and foremost, whatever you need to do, please realize that the student is the main constituency. Okay? So whatever you do, their interests and their welfare in this campus and in all the other campuses has to be first of all protected. Is this not common sense? This is the most commonsensical thing that I can think of. What other business does the registrar have here? What other business does he have here? What other business as a teacher have here, other than the fact that, okay, taking care, making you grow up, and also reading and writing something new. At least I have that caveat. I can run away and say, look, don't disturb me. I'm writing this Nobel Prize winning paper. I can tell you that. But what business does the administration have other than taking care of you? Tell me, are they writing papers? Nothing like that. So therefore, it's very important to realize this basic dichotomy that this institute has played its game by. Now, there is a lot of color that it gives to all this. It sort of plays by populism. It says that, no, you are coming and critiquing us about projects and expansion. Do you know what we do? We go and work for those Dalits and those Muslims in Govandi. That's what we do. Do you know what we are doing? We are running off to Narmada and we are saving all those tribals from drowning themselves. That's the senti card that they are used. You do that. There's no harm in doing that, provided you don't cut and filch from me. Provided you first of all commit yourself properly to me, because that's where you are located. After that, you go and do this. As a part of this, as a part of the student training process, do whatever is possible, but don't do it at the cost of basically completely marginalizing the legitimate interests and claims of the students. So this is the game that this institute has constantly played all the time. It has always played by these two sectors, the public sector and the private sector. Okay, it has always done that. Whenever it wanted to use, it has used one against the other. So now it's a time to blame the UGC, but at the same time it goes on for perpetuating its private sector domain. So it plays this, and it has got a very serious implication. That's what I'm trying to tell you, if you can consciously think about this very carefully. The first and foremost implication, I wish to repeat it again and again. Please understand the seriousness of the game that is being played. They are basically telling you that you are, okay, the basically under the custodial care of the state. Okay, you are under the custodial care of the state. How are they saying it? By basically saying that because the state is not paying, we can't pay you, right? So what does it mean? That you are the sons and daughters of the state. But for those people who get the benefits out of the non-UGC game, they are not custodians of the state. I mean, they are not under the custody of the state. They can be brought in. You can play that game to bring them in whenever it is necessary. But primarily, they are under the custodial care of whom? In this institute, if you all are basically the custodians under the custody of the state, and they can wash their hands of you because the state is not paying you, very clearly it means that you within this institute do not belong. This institute is not yours. This institute is for those people who basically are under the institute's custodial care. Okay? Otherwise, if this were not the case, they could not have washed their hands of you. As far as I can see, the way it is going ahead, they are washing their hands of you, laying the blame at the doorstep of the government, and not taking any ownership, okay, of your problems. So please understand, I teach you a lot about mobilization, social movements, crying for the Adivasis and tribals and Dalits and all that, shouting myself hoarse that we are a different institution about social justice. But this institute which speaks about social justice is viciously against social justice and human rights. This institute is viciously against social justice and human rights, and the success of your agitation so far has to be able to point this out very clearly. You are, as students, you are one constituency that even till today, even the Modi government, which likes to call all of us as Naxalites, even they will have to admit that the last and final constituency, okay, of everything is the student body. Because I get my salary as a faculty member, I can play any games. What do you get? You are here for learning. You just get a scrap of paper called a degree. So therefore, you are above board. Okay? So the important thing to notice here is that this agitation has made it very clear to everybody that the institute does not own you. The institute has left you at the mercy of the state. If this institute, which claims itself as public funded, leaves you at the mercy of the state, then this institute is anti-national. Anti-national, because if you are within the Republic of India, then you are within the Republic of India. The private sector does not operate outside the Republic of India. The agreement, the contract between the people and the state is that the state will allow the private sector to go. It's entirely at the mercy of the state. The supreme authority is the state. because I have transferred my will of freedom to the state. It rules and governs on my behalf. It's the will of the people. The legislature, the parliament is the will of all of us together. You can't tell us effectively that you are part of the state and therefore outside the institute. Somebody else who is not part of the state is inside the institute. You can't do that. Period. That's it. So therefore, I really congratulate you, because this is something which many of us from the faculty in our own capacities we have been saying. They have not been doing it. You know, we have not been able to be successful in persuading the institute to actually face up to what it's doing. But at the same time, your movement has been very successful in basically pointing out these contradictions and being able to raise this basic question. So I was hearing, because you all are all very emotional, you have spent a lot of time at this most crucial part of your career, you are going to graduate, some of you are going to give your final examinations, and you're coming and staying here, spending so much time with no hope, no communication from that building. Right? So therefore, at this particular stage, the very fact I wanted to share with you, that effectively what you have done is you have pointed out the major farcical, hypocritical, anti-national face of this institute, and so I would therefore, as a last instance, I would request you, in the same breath that I'm requesting this institute, because it's not the case as if I'm just going to walk away after, you know, approximately 30 years of service and just be another employee. I own the institute as anybody else does. Okay? Every faculty member, every staff member, all my friends in the security, all of them are part and parcel of this institute, not the registrar or only the director. Okay? So if therefore all of us are part of this institute, all of us are basically good human beings. We are all agreed upon the fact that all of you have come to study and you are under our care. Therefore, it is our responsibility and our job to play the game very well, above the board and in a clean manner. So my request to you, and specifically to the institute, is to sort this problem out at the earliest in a way which will show that the institute basically is an integral part of the Republic of India, and that all of us are basically under the custodial care of the state. We are the state, the institute is also the state, and therefore we all need to be owned up. The institute has to own up each and every one of you. Once I own yourself up, I can then start discussing with you what we can possibly do. I don't say that, look, I don't tell my daughter that, look, because I can't buy you a pair of shoes, you are not my daughter. I just try and sort it out, that how it can be done in another way, or I can even sometimes throw my hands up, sorry, I could not get you that. But the first thing, the first message has to be that yes, you are a part of this institute. Let us sit together and see what can be done, instead of blaming the very state from which you are an integral part. Okay, so stop blaming my request is stop blaming the UGC. Okay, you could have well blamed the UGC had not had you played the other account ledger book that you opened, this non-state business that you did. You stop blaming the UGC and you start rather interacting with students and try to see how things can be sorted out. The impression that I've got over my last 20 years, unlike many other universities, is that a very good thing about this students of this institute is that they have consistently displayed, despite all difficulties, a massive, a huge, and a total loyalty to this institute. Please respect that. I demand from the institute that this loyalty, this unconditional love for this institute by the students should be respected. This is not the way to treat it. You should not be on the streets. They should have been sorted out long time back, right? So I'm not going to buy the argument that there is no money, and I'm not going to buy the argument that the state is responsible for this. No, that's a patently problematic argument. Okay, so congratulations. Now please see how you can get together and work it out coordinate with the other campuses, what are their issues, bring them together, call them over to this campus sometime. One or two of you go there, interact so that they also get a feeling that yes, you are basically a part of them, and continue speaking to the administration, to the institute, until and unless they give you a clear signal that yes, you are actually, in reality, are part of this institute. That message should be received.